So the reason we have these initial values in the form is because in the new action of movies controller, I've set this movie property of our view model to a new movie. And this is to ensure that in our form, this hidden field will be populated with a value. Otherwise, we're going to get a validation error for the ID property. Now, one way to solve this problem is to remove this line here. And then in our form, use the hidden method instead of hidden form. So html.hidden. Here we pass the ID of our hidden field, which would be movie.id. And then we can initialize it like this. So if model.movie is not null, use model.movie.id. Otherwise, use 0. But the problem with this approach, as you might guess, is the use of this magic string here. So if we rename our properties, this code is going to break. So let's delete this. A better approach is to dedicate what I call a pure view model to this form. Let me show you what I mean. So in our view model, we're actually using this movie class. To remove the initial values in the form, we can add properties of the movie that we need to capture in the form here and make them nullable. This way, their initial value will be null, and our form will not be pre-populated with these values. So first I'm going to go in the movie class and select all these properties, copy, back to the view model, and replace this with individual properties. Now we import the namespaces using Alt and Enter. This is a resharper shortcut. So if you're not using resharper, you need to add system.componentModel.data annotations on the top. Now with these properties, we're going to make them nullable. So ID is going to be a nullable integer. Name is a string, which is nullable by default. We don't need genre anymore because all we capture in the form is genre ID. Delete. Here's genre ID. I'm going to make this nullable byte. We don't need date added because this is not a property we capture in the form. Delete. Release date should become nullable datetime. And we should also apply the required attribute here because all our properties are required. Now, I didn't have to apply this attribute for genre ID or name because they already have the attribute. Next, number in stock should be nullable byte and required. That's it. We just have one error here, and that's in the title because we don't have this movie property anymore. So we change this code to something like this. If ID is not 0, return edit movie, otherwise return new movie. Or we can make it shorter like this, using the ternary operator. So this is what I call a pure view model. Now, there are a few more changes we need to make in the application. Back in the form, you see all these references are broken because we no longer have the movie property. But fixing it is very easy. Control H for find and replace. We're going to replace .movie with just a dot. Alt and A to replace all. Done. And finally, in the controller, in the edit action, we need to replace this line with individual property assignments. So ID equals movie.id, name, release date, number in stock, and genre ID. Now we can make this code cleaner by moving this logic into the view model. So we create a constructor for this view model. In that constructor, we give it a movie object, and the view model will be responsible for setting its initial state. So back in the view model, I'm going to define a constructor here that takes a movie object. I'm also going to create a default constructor, which will be used when creating a new movie. Now back in the controller, I'm going to grab these lines here, which is all about initializing the view model based on the movie. Cut, back here, paste them all here. Now we just need to replace this comma with semicolon. And finally, reformat the code. And with this, we can go back to the controller. And when creating this view model, we give it this movie object. Much cleaner. And the final change is in the save action. So here again, instead of initializing the movie here, we pass this movie object that we receive here when instantiating this view model. Just one tiny step that I missed. Back in our view model, when using this constructor for a new movie, we need to set this ID to 0. And this is to make sure that in our form, this hidden field is populated. So this is how you solve this problem.